This article is via the Los Angeles Times and written by Louis Sahagan. Rockhounds fight for access to their jewel in the desert, Mojave Trails National Monument. This has far-reaching implications, so if you haven't yet, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing, and especially sharing this article. Let's begin. Mojave Trails National Monument, California. If dyed-in-the-wool rockhound Gregor Lawson takes you to his favorite mineral hunting grounds, be prepared to set out before sunrise in his four-wheel drive truck and follow a tangle of backcountry roads to a remote corner of the Mojave Desert. It's a desolate alluvial fan on the southern flanks of the Katy Mountains where sparkling calcite crystals and pieces of quartz, jasper, and agate are continually carried down the slopes by thunderstorms and flash floods. Sounds pretty nice. Quote, "This place is as good as it gets," Lawson said recently as he hoisted a small geode filled with quartz crystals, but that may not be the case for much longer. A fierce 7-year debate over whether or not to prohibit the removal of rocks and minerals from Mojave Trails National Monument threatens to end rock collecting within its 1.6 million acres. And let me be clear, if that ends up being the case, this could have rippling effects elsewhere. Specifically, the U.S. Bureau of Land Management is nearing completion of a management plan that could declare rock collecting a form of mining. If that happens, rockhounding would fall under the control of the General Mining Law of 1872, which regulates extractive industries that take such raw materials as gold, silver, lithium, and oil from the earth on public lands. It would also hasten the demise of California's relatively small and aging community of gem and mineral collectors, Lawson's and others say. Quote, "We see this issue as an existential threat to a hobby that dates back to the turn of the last century," said Lisbeth Thoresen, a mineralogist and advocate of hobbyists who find joy in lugging a few bucketfuls of rocks home to be cut and polished with lapidary equipment, diamond saws, grinders, and tumbling machines. No national monument administered by any federal agency currently operates under a management plan that allows mining, but advocates of rockhounding are hoping that the BLM will make an exception at Mojave Trails that could be used as a template for accommodating the hobby at monuments elsewhere. Interjecting, obviously you wouldn't want people taking, say, the arches from Arches National Park. That would be counterproductive to the entire point of Arches National Park. However, rock collecting in general is not destructive. Carrying on, quote, "Rock collecting is not mining," Thoresen said. "How are students going to learn to be geologists if not in nature's own classroom?" Katie Boyd, curator of rocks and minerals at the Mojave River Valley Museum in Barstow, described the situation as bordering on ridiculous. Quote, "I take strong exception to rockhounding being under review for possible classification as a crime," she said. "It's a wonderful hobby, and I'm all for it." Often, stones and minerals collected by rockhounds are turned into pendants, bolo ties, rings, bookends, and colorful spheres. Others wind up in glass display cases or in school classrooms. The debate over whether or not rockhounding should be permitted in this desert just a few hours east of Los Angeles arises from President Obama's 2016 proclamation designating Mojave Trails as a national monument. The official proclamation did not include rock hunting as a desirable activity and ended with the admonition, quote, "Warning is hereby given to all unauthorized persons not to appropriate, injure, destroy, or remove any feature of the monument, and not to locate or settle upon any of the lands thereof." To add to the confusion, Senator Dianne Feinstein, who had asked Obama to create the monument in the first place, insisted that the proclamation's warning referred to cultural and historic items, not rocks. The BLM would not go that far, but it has allowed rockhounding to continue at least until the management plan is finalized later this year. For rockhounds, the battle over the future of rock collecting in Mojave Trails is also a battle over the future of the pastime itself. Rock hunting was a fast-growing new hobby in the 1930s when collectors began venturing into the vast Mojave Desert by car via the legendary Route 66, then took dirt roads to mineral hotspots including the Katy Mountains, Lavick Siding, and Afton Canyon, a 4-mile furrow carved by the Mojave River. Its heyday was in the 1950s when there were an estimated 2 million home lapidary shops in operation across the nation, and rockhounding was encouraged by the U.S. Bureau of Mines as part of a strategy to increase stockpiles of minerals crucial for national defense. In a 1956 newspaper article titled, "You Can Be a Weekend Gem Hunter," by Thomas H. Miller, director of Bureau of Mines, he argued that sooner or later one of these rockhounds is going to make a find of one of the many important strategic minerals, such as manganese, or nickel, or beryllium, which we desperately need. Rockhounds have been steadily losing access to premier hunting grounds since the 1970s due to urban sprawl, the expansion of military bases, and the implementation of conservation policies aimed at ensuring the long-term survival of vital land rich in anthropological resources, historic sites, plants, and wildlife, including bighorn sheep. Delicious. The sweeping California Desert Conservation Area Plan of 1980 omitted rock collecting among its enumerated recreational opportunities. Although the plan has been revised 147 times since then, rock collecting was never included as a specifically permitted activity. That omission produced a rift with rockhounders that only deepened in 2016 when Obama's proclamation overlooked the activity as a desired use in Mojave Trails. Quote, "Rockhounds hate national monuments," Thorson said, "because wherever rock collecting is not explicitly stated as a desirable use in their management plans, it is not allowed." The rock hunting community's fight for permanent access to Mojave Trails is supported by the nonprofit conservation group Cal Wild and the Mineralogical Society of Southern California, some of whose members are responsible for the identification and classification of several hundred new minerals. Quote, "We are passionate about keeping the Mojave Trails National Monument for science, for education, for mineral collecting, and for rockhounding for many generations to come," Angela Guzman, president of the society, said in a recent letter to BLM officials. Other supporters include the Mojave Desert Land Trust and the Wildlands Conservancy, both of which are dedicated to acquiring ecologically significant tracts of land throughout California. Quote, "To prohibit casual collection by grouping it with commercial mining would be a true failure of our federal policymakers and violate commitments made as Mojave Trails National Monument was being promoted and advocated over 10 years ago," said Fraser Haney, executive director of the Wildlands Conservancy. In the meantime, Southern California rockhounds are bracing for change. Quote, "Rockhounds don't have lobbyists and lawyers on staff to fight any of this," said rock collector Ruth Hidalgo of Palmdale, who has earned the moniker Mama Bear because of her strong arguments at public hearings on the issue. Quote, "There are definitely going to be compromises. Rockhounds won't be able to go everywhere they do now. But Hidalgo, great movie, has high hopes of ensuring access to an inexpensive weekend getaway she refers to as, quote, my quiet, remote, happy place where sparkling minerals in every direction are staring out at you. Quote, "My husband who passed away last year always had a rock in his pocket," she said. "Now I have it. It's a piece of agate from the Katy Mountains." As previously stated, this has far-reaching implications for more than just Mojave Trails National Monument. People don't realize how much land is under BLM control. Fun fact, it's most of the state of Nevada, large swaths of Idaho, Oregon, Wyoming, Utah, parts of Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, Alaska, and a bit more. All places with larger rockhounding communities, but also rock collecting tourism. And if BLM sets the policy for one place, it'll probably get copy-pasted elsewhere. Not to mention, if one federal agency creates an obtuse policy like this, others, like the Forestry Service, may follow suit, and fun fact, there is a lot of rock collecting on forestry grounds. Keep in mind, most people are not advocating for policies that would cause destruction of monuments like White Sand or Arches National Park. There is room for policy that would allow scratching or surface collecting. One of the complaints I've received in the past, specifically concerning geodes I've collected, is that, "You should have left it! You're a stranger endangering the earth! When are we gonna stop bad touching, mother?" And that argument can be demolished in 3 words. The rock cycle. Anything exposed on or near the surface is subject to weathering, and my chunky butt picking it up may be the only way it's ever going to be seen before being destroyed by our dynamic planet. Now, an argument can be made against the destructive strip mining that went into the lithium which powered the phone those comments are made from. But rockhounding is a generally harmless and affordable activity for anybody interested. It's generally a family activity, even. Thanks for watching. This story needs a lot of attention from people in the community, so if you haven't yet, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, even sharing this, because big changes are likely on the horizon that will create a ripple effect elsewhere in the United States. Have a good day.